Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week you'll receive insight, inspiration, and advice for aligning your mind, body, and spirit to achieve a fulfilled life and live your purpose with me, your host, Jennifer Spohr. You'll also hear from other leaders who share their inspirational stories and wisdom in living fulfilled, on purpose, and making an impact. If you're a mission-driven leader and you're passionate about learning and integrating all the things that empower you to live and lead a fulfilled, purpose-led life, this is the show for you. Hey everyone, I'm excited to welcome as a guest to the show today, Renee Smith. She is the CEO of iSuccess Consulting, Inc. She is known as the Business Scalability Strategist, and she's dedicated to empowering 1 million CEOs globally to build generational wealth through holistic entrepreneurship. I'm so excited to have you here, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, and I am awake and I am on purpose. I'm ready to go.
We had a chance to chat for a couple of minutes prior to hitting record, and your energy is just so infectious. We're going to have a ton of fun today.
I am ready.
So I'd love to kick things off by just, if you could share with the listeners, a little bit more about you and how you actually got into doing this work.
So I honestly fell into it because I am a serial entrepreneur. I started my first business when I was 19. So about, 5 years ago. I'm joking. I'm joking. It's been over 25 years. And so I've gone through a series of businesses, from a marketing and branding company to a family construction business. And all of the while, I was looking, every business I went to or developed, I was kind of looking for my theme. And I didn't find it. And so really maybe about a year ago, I realized that I loved working with small businesses, and I love helping them to identify what their purpose is and to infuse it in their business. So I've been in business probably for about 25 years, but I really think it's just within the last year that I realized that my job is to help CEOs and to help them to transform. So my clients have come to me with business, but we end up going through and peeling back the layers for their inner healing. And so what I like to say now is we have to heal the inner CEO, because so many people, they're wanting to grow their business and they want to make all this money, but they don't realize that their business, it grows in parallel with their mindset and in parallel with their inner healing and in parallel with them walking in their purpose. So I started with corporate, kind of transitioned to small business, and I think it just evolved.
Yeah, you are so speaking my language right now. I believe everything of what you're saying, and for my own journey, I know that becoming an entrepreneur by far has been the biggest, test or opportunity to learn in terms of mindset. And prior to doing what I do now, I had a well-established career in corporate and led a division of a large company. And
did you have joy? Did you have joy?
For a while I did, and I lost that. And that's part of what led me to a journey. I call it, rediscovering essentially who I was, and really, did I know who I was to begin with, right? Because so many of us are brought up in a traditional society where we're taught to believe that success is something that's compartmentalized. It only means certain things, but success is really defined uniquely, for each of us. And what brings us joy, as you said. So I love that. And I love that there's definitely a lot of opportunity to provide support in corporate, but I love that you are focusing on small businesses, because I also believe we live in a time where old systems and things that just don't work anymore are crumbling. And it's more important now than ever for the innovators, the visionaries, the people that are the creatives, that they're all stepping forward and helping us to anchor a new way of just doing business and being What are your thoughts on that? I know that's a big question in terms of the time that we're living in.
At first, like that's a loaded question. But before I answer that, the one thing I wanted to say is I think being an entrepreneur, it is a spiritual journey. Like it reveals to you who you are. In the times when it gets tough, it reveals to you your character. Are you going to give up? Are you going to persevere? What are you going to do? So I just wanted to say it absolutely is one of the toughest things. I think people they see on social media, people in their private jets and all this other kind of stuff, but they don't understand that number one, half of this stuff is rented. Okay. Number two, they're showing you chapter 50, right? Not chapter 1 through 49. And so we're trying to compare ourselves, not understanding that that overnight success that we think it took them 15 years to get there. It,
Yes.
and so we're day one in the business or year one in the business, and we may get frustrated because we're comparing somebody else that is in year 15. So that's number one. And I totally agree with you with everything that is happening. I think a couple things. I think people realize that because of the pandemic and so many other things that happen, like there really is nothing, there is no security, right? So even a lot of the jobs that people had that they thought were secure,
Uh-huh.
this pulled the rug off from under them, and it lets them know that there is no security for most people in whatever position or job that you're in. And so it gives you an opportunity to really now start looking at your skills, your abilities, your experiences, and being able to assess like what is it that I can do. And then the innovative part comes too with what is there a market need for? And then being able to meet that market need by you innovating, you expanding your skill sets, you looking at a current problem, a little bit different, putting your own spin into it. Because regardless of what you're doing, 9 times out of 10, somebody has already done it, and you have to create your own new and unique way of solving that problem. So I think it's the biggest opportunity. But let me tell you, I also think, Jennifer, that for a lot of people that really want to step out or that have stepped out, they're dealing with fear. They're dealing with insecurity. They're dealing with, self-worth problems. And so even if they have stepped out, they may not reach their fullest potential because of the lack of confidence that they have in themselves.
Yes, and that goes back to what you said at the beginning of our conversation, right? About healing that inner CEO, so to speak. Because
Absolutely.
I do believe that too. The journey of becoming an entrepreneur is the ultimate test of, and any unhealed trauma or any feelings of, lack of self-worth or even deservingness will all bubble to the surface uh, with this journey. And something that I say often too that I'd love to get your thoughts on is because I work with a lot of clients who are doing things that no one else is doing. And so having that confidence and ability to step forward is just such a huge component of the journey. I think the easiest way to navigate through that growth journey is being true to yourself, is having crystal clarity on what your values are, what it is you really desire to do, not what you think you have to do to be successful. Because
Hmm.
it's so easy, especially in this age with all the technology we have, just to get caught up in all the noise, right?
Yep.
So being clear in that sense of self, I think, is just really important to navigating your way through anything that comes up.
I totally agree with you. And so I always say, when you are looking at the vision of your business, you have to put yourself in solitary confinement. Because when God or your higher power gave you the vision, and I heard this before, I don't remember where I heard it from, but it says when God gave you the vision for your business, it was a one-way call. It was not a conference call. He didn't give your vision to your friends, to your husband, to your wife. He gave it to you.
Yeah.
So we're going to other people trying to get validation or clarification about our vision or dream or purpose that was given to us. And they're not equipped to give it to you, right? So I say put yourself in solitary confinement, get quiet, meditate, do introspection to figure out what is it that you were supposed to be doing? And when you quiet your mind and you're open to it, then that's when the downloads come. And sometimes we reject it. The downloads are trying to come, but we're rejecting it. Like, God, what I'm doing now, God told me about in 2014. I had wrote my memoir and it's called Metamorphosis. And I never put it out there. I wrote it. And I just kind of gave like a teaser of it. And I had so many people coming to me with emotional issues and problems. And I was like, I do not want to do this. And so from 2014 until today, he had been talking to me, but I was like, reject this message, reject. I don't want to do it. So we have to be open. Like when we get silent and when we get quiet, we have to be open to what we hear because it may be totally different than what we look like. We may be like, I don't know how I'm going to make money doing that. Or I don't know where I'm going to find these people. Or we have all these excuses. But if we get clear of what we want, we accept the assignment or the purpose while we were here. And whenever you're given that vision, then the provision is going to come.
Absolutely. Understanding too, from a more practical aspect, just the reality is that our mind is a faithful servant, right? But a lot of times when we're considering making these types of decisions, we're in our headspace when we're doing it. And I always advise people on dropping down into their heart space, because that's the intersection of the spiritual and the physical. And that guidance we're receiving from God, it's always going to be something that is for our highest good, but that moves us toward a place of expansion, which often means traveling an unknown path. So just knowing that our mind and the way that we have made decisions traditionally is a product of our experiences and our beliefs up to that point. So just having that willingness to set that aside and trust the path that we're being guided to go down.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, they don't trust their intuition, right? They start second guessing it. They'll hear something, they'll be like, well, wait a minute, was that me? And am I supposed to do that? Or so, like you said, when you drop down into your heart space, it allows you to be open because some things that we hear, they're not going to make sense, right? And when you're in the heart space, if you're trying to make it make sense, then you may miss it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Totally. Something I'd also love to ask you about is, there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and being the CEO of your business, right? And I know that you work with CEOs. What are your insights around that?
Well, so it's a couple different things. And what I say is that I do CEO transformation, right? Which means that you are transforming your mindset, you're transforming your habits to become a CEO. So, an entrepreneur, or you may have a solopreneur, the business is revolved around you. If you don't work, then you don't eat. You're not able to take off vacation. You're not, if the business shut down for 2 weeks, it would not operate because it is you. It's you involved in doing everything. A CEO, on the other hand, is building a small business. They're building teams, they're building systems so that the business will ultimately be able to operate without them, and they will be overseeing the operation of the business. So you've kind of got like the entrepreneur, solopreneur, and then you have the small business. And so most of us start off as a solopreneur. But a lot of times we stay there, we never advance because we don't have the right brand, we don't have the right marketing, we don't have the right systems. And oftentimes we just have problems in delegating. We will say, if it's not done right, then if I don't do it, then it's not done right. So that's an entrepreneur over here. Has to have their hands on everything, has to be involved. A CEO, on the other hand, says, yes, I want to be involved. I want my essence to be involved. I want my integrity to be involved, but I'm going to create processes. I'm going to find the right team members. I'm going to train them on it so they will still be able to execute at the same level of quality that I have. So an entrepreneur is kind of focused on them doing everything, and the CEO is focused on training people and putting the right process in places so that that business can grow.
I love that. We know this journey isn't one that's for the faint of heart, right? But it's so rewarding, right? To actually bring into your reality the purpose and the mission that God puts on your heart here, If you're okay with doing so, I'd love for you to share, what is one of the most challenging experiences that you've had, and just how you overcame it to move forward.
Oh my God, I have so many. I
I know
have so
I have
many.
lots too. It's like, how do you pick just one, right?
So I will share one that was actually pretty recent. It was my mom. My mom was actually in the hospital, and I mean, she was in a coma for months, and she was in the hospital for 5, almost 6 months. And it was at the exact same time in my business when um, I had new contracts coming in. It was a time when my husband and I were not in the best place. It's a time when everything seemed to be going, awry with the kids. So I was in therapy and healing. And so I'm going through growth and transformation. So nothing in my life was stable. And nothing in my life was at the current level that I knew. Everything required growth. Everything required growth. And I remember one day I had a huge training that I had to do, let's say at 11. And at 10:55, I'm on the phone with the doctors and he's telling me like how my mom, may not make it. And I have to shut that off. And at 11 o'clock, get on this call. And then my son had something at 2 o'clock and I had to show up. And so it was just overwhelmed. It was just overwhelming. And so I had to have a talk with myself and say, hey, listen, this is the situation where it is in. I mean, where you are, and to whom much is given, much is required. So you are going to have to figure out how to make this work. And so for me, what came through that was the term non negotiable execution. And it said, none of these commitments are going to change. You're still going to have to show up. You can give yourself grace. You can give yourself compassion. You can give yourself self care. You can take care of yourself. But what mindset do you need to have to show up in order to be able to do these things? And so I trained myself that my mindset was I'm an early riser because I had to talk. And on top of this, we were doing virtual school. And so I just changed it. I said, I'm an early riser, which meant that I got up in the morning, did my self care, make sure that I was taken care of first so that I could give to others. I did the schooling with my son. I went to go see my mom, came home, cooked, did everything that I needed to do. And then I did my business at night. And so I was like, you're an early riser and you get it done. No excuses. And so I went in my heart space and I said, God, I need you to give me the strength
Yeah,
in order to do this. And then I went into my mind space and said, this is what you have to do to get it done. And so it was just a time that was overwhelming. And so I will say to people that when life happens and life comes at you, the way that you have to look at it is that it's all working out for my good. Regardless of what it is, it's all working out for my good. And the process with my mom, it has allowed us to become closer. It's allowed us to kind of start working on some wounds. It didn't seem like that when she was in the hospital and she had like 10 tubes in her, and I'm having these conversations. But just tell yourself, regardless of what's going on, this is the same thing I told myself when I had my 2 miscarriages. This is the same thing that whenever I have difficult situations, I say everything is working out for my good. Or when I was in a mentally abusive relationship, everything is working out for my good. You don't see it at the time, but when you get out of the situation, you do realize that everything that you've gone through, that God is using it for you to touch other people. Because it was a quote, it said, your transparency will help with someone else's transformation.
mm-hmm.
So because of the things that I'm going through, so when my husband and I, we were in divorce proceedings, right? God restored us and healed us, but that was a difficult time. And what I noticed is that I started attracting a whole bunch of women clients that were very, had alpha tendencies, were talking about divorcing, and I was able to share my experience and how we reconcile, and it helped save their marriage. So everything that you are going through, regardless of how difficult it is, it will not be wasted. It will be used to bless somebody else.
Absolutely. Gosh, there's so much I'd love to unpack from what you just shared. There's such, I first, is your mom better?
So she
Okay.
is in rehab and doing really well.
Great. So glad to hear that.
Thank you.
What you say about non negotiables is so important. There is a line between being flexible to honor the space that we need to create for ourselves, but also having those, those things that are non negotiable, which I view as like the foundation, right? There are certain things that you do every day, week, year, whatever, no matter what. And then everything else in your life is just can be reprioritized, right? Or be adjusted to be done around that. So important. And I think when someone can get to a place where during the experience they're having, they can trust and understand that it's happening for the highest good. That's really important also, to get to a place where you can have that element of surrender. That doesn't mean everything's always going to be, like easy peasy, but that's a big part of
Yep.
the human experience, us being here, right? Is learning, and is the mastery of those lessons,
Yep.
which goes back to what you said earlier about transparency contributing to someone's transformation, because it's our experiences that are crystallized into wisdom that then we can share with other people.
Absolutely. Because if you have it all together, right? If you've never gone through anything, life was easy for you, then I really can't relate to you because that's just not what
Right.
happened to me. I've had all kind of bumps, bruises, disappointment, failed relationships. So I need the people that are pouring into me or that I'm paying for coaching or whatever, I need for them to have gone through something to be able to tell me how to pull it through. Like if you've just had a life of privilege and you've never had to work for anything, I'm not able to identify with you because that's just not my life. And so when you're transparent about what you've gone through and what it takes to be successful or to have abundance, whatever that means for you, then it helps me. Then it helps me because I can see that, oh, okay, you're transparent. You went through this. It took you 20 years to get here. It took you 5 years to get here. Okay, well, that makes sense. But if I just look at you and I think that you've gotten there in a year and I'm still struggling and I'm in year 3 or year 5, then I'm not able to relate to you.
Absolutely. Our our purpose and our mission is evolving, and uh a lot of people, when they're in a place of up leveling or expanding, think more about what they're going to lose versus what they're going to actually gain when they align to that next level of themselves that's coming forward to be expressed. Um, what's your advice on letting go? Because a lot of times, there are relationships, people in our lives, other things that we're being called to let go of in order to move forward.
So I say number one is be compassionate with yourself because up leveling, breaking generational curses, healing from trauma, all of that, it's a lot. And so I would say number one, be compassionate with yourself. I would say number two is you have to be honest with yourself and you have to take a real assessment and decide, are you willing to do what it takes to up level? Because that's when you start looking at your relationships. Are they a season, a lifetime, a purpose? Is the other person that you're in relationship with, are they willing to allow you to grow? Are they willing to grow with you? So I think you got to have some real hard conversations with yourself. And even when my husband and I were going through the divorce proceeding, that is what it was. I'm transforming. He's transforming. We're not the same people. We have to decide if we're going to be able to realign. Same friendships. I had to have conversations. Hey, what we used to talk about, the things that we used to do, I'm growing, I'm evolving. I don't want to do those things anymore. This is kind of where I'm going. Can you fit? So you got to be honest and see if these things can fit. Some of the relationships, they will be able to fit how you're growing and
Mhm.
some of them will not. Even with your business or for those that have jobs, you're going to have to look and say, because the more you up level, the more you get into your purpose, like you're going to lose that joy of doing stuff that is not related to it. So kind of like how you said in your corporate job, you were happy for a while, but probably as your eyes start waking it up and you started realizing that, hey, this is not aligned with my purpose, it probably became harder and harder for you to do that job. And
Mhm.
so people, you have to decide, are you willing, because it is going to cost you, like it is going to cost you to up level. And so you have to decide if you are going to be able to do it. And then I would say, find you some accountability, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a coach, whether it's a community, because it is a lonely place because you're trying to figure it out. And then you're trying to explain to the other people, what's going on. So definitely finding yourself a place of
Yes.
support. I think that's important.
So key, because sometimes there may not be anyone in your circle who's capable of holding that space for you, right?
9.9 times out of 10.
Yeah, yeah. So having a coach or mentor, or therapist, or someone who can um, be that, objective kind of point of view outside of your immediate circle, and
Mhm.
have a non-emotional attachment, to what advice they're giving you, is so so important. um
And let me just say, one thing I want to tell people is, because you have some people that say, well, I don't have a mentor, like I don't have a coach, or I don't have this. With technology these days, you can find
yes,
somebody online to follow that has,
yes,
walked the path before you. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical person, but just finding somebody that's a few steps ahead of you that can kind of share their journey with you.
yes. I've worked with people who also sometimes have therapists and coaches. It's really finding the person who is the best fit for whatever transformation or growth it is that you want to experience, because that's really important too, because not all therapists and coaches are created equally.
No, they are not at all. They are not at all. And
Yeah.
so I have a therapist and I have an intuitive coach. And so they provide me with different things and they help me in different ways. And so you do. And you have to find somebody that is a good fit for you, because I've met a lot of people that have been in therapy and they have said, like, it didn't work. It wasn't a good fit. And so trust your intuition. If you're in sessions with therapists or coaches and it's not going the right way and you're not feeling, then that's the probably person isn't aligned to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there any I mean, I know this interview is not going to come out right away, but are there any special projects or things that you're working on or putting out there that you want to share with us?
So I do. So one thing that I want to offer you guys is my free 5-day CEO challenge, confidence challenge. And even if you are not a CEO, it still is relative to you because you're the CEO of your own life. And when we think of confidence, people sometimes just think about the outward, appearance of somebody, but it's so much about your visions, your goals, your purpose, your relationships, how you set boundaries, like you doing your healing work, because all those things are going to affect your confidence. And so I always say you've got to kind of start at the base level, your confidence, your mindset, before you start looking at other things. So I want to offer that to everybody. It is free and it's a 5-day challenge and it has videos and it has action assignments and it's going to help you to look at things immediately in your life and make a shift forward. So that's available at the CEO.life, the CEO.life. And it's a game changer, very eye opening.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And in closing, is there anything else that you're feeling guided to bring forward?
Well, one thing I wanted to say is when we were talking about honoring relationships and holding space, I want to say two things. One is when you are going through your process of healing, there is a difference between resolution and reconciliation. A lot of people think that somebody else has to be required in their healing. So it may be issues that you had with your mother, your father, or issues that you had with an ex, and they don't see the situation the way that you see it, and they don't see a problem with it, and they don't understand how they hurt you. And so you don't have to wait on an apology from them. You don't have to wait on something to happen. You can start your own process of healing and forgiving. And so reconciliation means that you want to continue a relationship with somebody, you want to restore a relationship. And that point, you have to have, forgiveness, acceptance of responsibility, and all that kind of stuff. But you can resolve a situation yourself, you can forgive, and you can go through your own healing process. So don't let anybody hold your healing hostage. You are in control of your own healing. That's number one. Number two is honoring space for both you and the person that has hurt you. So even in my relationship with my mom, I had to hold space for her that she didn't mean to, unintentionally not give me things that I needed emotionally. She did the best that she could. I can hold that. And then I can hold the same space that all of that is true, but I still didn't get the things emotionally that I needed from a mom. And then I can process that. And so because I'm holding that she did the best that she could, I can forgive her. And because I'm holding that I didn't get what I needed, I can heal. And so you can hold space for that. And then the last thing is, in any relationship, you want to honor the other person in the relationship. And then you want to make sure that they are honoring you and that you are honoring yourself. So to give example, when my mom was sick, she was like, I need somebody down here and I would love to have you down here with me every day. So that was what she needed. What I could do in honoring myself is say, I have a business to run. I have kids. I love you. I'm not able to do that. What I can do is I can come 2, 3 days a week, and then I can make sure that dad, my brother, your friends, they're there to support you. So I can honor your request of needing support there every day. And I can honor myself in making sure that I don't overcommit where I am drained and I'm giving out of my reserves. I still honor myself to make sure that I have time for self-care and pouring into myself. So honor both people. And then if you have somebody in the relationship that is not honoring you, then you honor yourself by setting up boundaries and removing yourself from the situation.
So, so important and priceless advice. T. Renee, thank you so much. This conversation was amazing. I mean, I could talk to you for forever.
Well, it has been a pleasure and I have enjoyed it so much. And thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It was amazing.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening to the Awaken on Purpose podcast. Please visit me and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or at awakenonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can achieve a fulfilled life, live your purpose, and make an impact as a mission-driven leader, visit me at jenniferspore.com